Yo, what's going on guys? This is BrendanMushi, and in this video I'm going to be giving fighting game and Guilty Gear newcomers alike some key strategies that will hopefully allow you to understand the flow of not only Guilty Gear, but fighting games in general. You know, after watching some very entertaining VTubers over the course of the game's beta, I remembered that not everyone sees fighting games the way that I see fighting games.
I can burst, hold on. I practiced how to do this. Hang on a second, 1 second. Hang on. Bring back. No, wait! What?
That's why I'm going to focus more on fighting game fundamentals for newcomers and less on Guilty Gear specific mechanics. So without further delay, let's get into it. So I believe that fighting game matches are broken down into 3 parts: neutral, offense, and defense. So I'm going to quickly and concisely go over each one so that you understand the basics of what you should be doing at all stages of a match, starting with the first of the 3 parts, neutral. Neutral refers to when neither player is being hit by or blocking an attack. They're typically a mid to full screen's distance from each other, and both players have a goal of scoring a hit on their opponent. But how do we do that? Okay, so the match starts. What should you do? What buttons do you press? A very simple way you can view neutral as a beginner in fighting games is as 3 strategies you can adopt at any given time, and you can think of these strategies as a kind of rock, paper, scissors between you and your opponent. The first of these 3 strategies is that you could play a very safe poking game, where you throw out moves with great horizontal range that are generally safe. These would include long-range pokes that occupy horizontal space and fireballs. In Guilty Gear, this would typically be your // button. This style is effective at chipping your opponent's health down slowly and eventually making them squirm into making mistakes. And that's what leads us to the second strategy. In 2D fighting games, this playstyle typically loses to jumping in, or in Guilty Gear's case, air dashing. If the opponent predicts that you're going to throw out these pokes and projectiles, they can very quickly jump and air dash over it for a great reward, which will give them a massive combo. However, this great reward also comes with a great risk. And so this is what brings us to the third strategy, which is anti-airing. If you jump in or air dash at an opponent and they don't throw out a poke and they instead go for an anti-air, this can lead to big damage. Guilty Gear has a universal anti-air referred to as 6P, performed by doing forward punch. It has upper body invulnerability, so it typically beats out jump-ins. Now, because this move is very fast and has upper body invulnerability, you don't get that much of a reward for landing it in Strive. But if you land most characters 2H anti-air, you typically get way more damage and a much better reward. Now, an opponent that's looking for the anti-air and waiting for you to jump won't be paying attention to the horizontal space anymore, and this opens up the opportunity to dash in and start your offense with pokes again, thus completing the circle of rock, paper, scissors. So the idea is, figure out what your opponent is doing, but also be aware of what you are doing, as you'll actively be trying to counter each other's strategies. Are they throwing out a lot of pokes? Maybe you might consider jumping over or countering those pokes. Are they jumping in and air dashing a lot? Maybe wait it out a little bit instead of throwing pokes and consider anti-airing them to punish them for that. Does the opponent tend to wait back and wait for you to jump in so they can anti-air you? Consider running in the horizontal space and poking at them if they're not going to throw anything out. Alright bro, that's enough of that neutral shit. Nobody wants to hear about that. Let's get into part 2. Let's talk about offense. So when I say offense, generally what I'm referring to is basically the decisions that you make when you've won neutral and are now attacking a blocking opponent or an opponent that's been downed. Now when you're attacking an opponent that's downed and getting up off the ground, this is referred to as okizeme, or oki for short. The basic premise here is that the opponent is blocking against you and you have to utilize different mix-ups between your offense in order to open up their guard. This can be done with low attacks that need to be blocked with a crouching guard, overhead attacks that need to be blocked with a standing guard, throws, or a standard attack button. In Guilty Gear, generally 2K and 2D are universal lows across the cast, while jump-in attacks and 5D are universal overheads. Some characters have command normals that function as overheads, but not everyone. You see, when I talked about offense, you probably thought I was going to talk about combos, but in reality a lot of people don't realize this, but when it comes to fighting games, combos are often the least important part. All combos generally really are is maximizing the amount of damage that you get off of a hit in neutral or off of a hit when you mix someone up. The thing with combos is that with everything I'm mentioning in this video, you can very easily go on YouTube and watch another player or a combo video and see what combo they do off of these hits. This video is about the fundamentals, so it's showing you how to get the hits. You can use combo videos or other pieces of info on my channel to learn what to do after you get the hit. So if you've gone through your move list and you have a good understanding of which of your attacks are overheads and which of your attacks are lows, it wouldn't be too difficult for you to figure out a way to mix your opponent up with those. But what I want to talk about is how to mix your opponent up between throw or striking them with an attack. Now, in order to incorporate this key component of mixing people up on offense, which is where you mix them up between a strike and a throw, it's important that you have to be on advantage. Being on advantage is a situation where the opponent is stuck and unable to move, while you as the attacker are able to move. Essentially how this works is your initial attack that the opponent blocks puts them in a suspended blocking animation where they're unable to move. When you go to do a follow-up attack as the attacker, your attack is already headed towards them and they still have not finished their blocking animation. By the time their blocking animation has finished, it's too late for them to press anything. Your attack is already in mid-flight and in front of their face. This will result in them getting hit if they press anything. This is what's called a frame trap. So it's crucial to do moves on your opponent that give you the advantage and then hit them with an additional attack. If the defender presses anything after blocking this move that's on advantage, they will get hit. This incentivizes the opponent to continue blocking after blocking your move that's on advantage. But what that means is you can now enforce a mix-up game between doing an advantageous move and then continuing your pressure, or doing an advantageous move and then running up for a throw. So next we'll identify some common moves across the cast that tend to be advantageous. As a general rule of thumb, the things that are advantageous on block are as follows. Jump in attacks, a lot of characters close slashes, Roman canceling anything on block, hard knockdowns, moves that cause a guard break, summons such as Eddie or Foss's random items, and multi-hitting projectiles that last a long time. In any situation where you can get an opponent to block these, essentially this is your green light to go for a mix-up, whether it's a low, overhead, throw, or strike. And once again, the reason why I put so much emphasis on being on advantage is because while you are on advantage, they have a much harder time interrupting you while you go for your mix-ups. Alright, so if you made it this far, just want to let you know, I'm proud of you, but we're on the home stretch. So the last thing we got to talk about is something very crucial and very important that takes a long time to hone, and that's defense. You see, each character in Guilty Gear or your selected fighting game of choice is going to have their own different offensive moves that they're going to use in pressure that you're going to have to get used to defending against. And in a game like Guilty Gear, there are a lot of defensive mechanics that you can use to get people off of you. And unfortunately, I'm not going to go over all of those mechanics here today, but I definitely will at some point on my channel, and there are plenty of resource links on the internet, including some in the description of this video that you can check out if you're pressed for time. So we mentioned before during the offense portion of the video that the main types of mix-ups people will do on you is a high-low mix-up. The thing about high-low mix-ups is that generally lows tend to be very fast and unreactable, while overheads tend to be slower and more reactive. And there also tend to be fewer overheads in the game. This is why you'll typically block low 90% of the time, and you'll switch to a high block whenever you see the opponent is in the air, because that's something that you can visually see and quickly react to. Same with if you see the opponent go into an overhead attack, you want to stand guard on reaction when you see it. So typically you want to block low and only stand guard when you see an overhead or you see a jumping opponent, and as soon as the opponent is on the ground again, quickly switch back into a low guard. If the opponent ever runs up to you and attempts to throw you, if you input throw as well, which is performed by pressing either forward D for a forward throw or back and D for a back throw. If you press it at the same time they throw you, you will tech the throw and break them off. Like I said earlier, in Guilty Gear there are a lot of system mechanics that you can use on defense, but there are two that I really think that you should commit to memory. The first is burst. So by pressing any attack button plus the dust button, you will immediately break a combo or end a block string that the opponent is in the middle of doing. The second is yellow Roman cancel. So Roman cancel is performed by pressing any 3 attack buttons except for dust. The yellow Roman cancel is the one that you get when you input it while you're in the middle of blocking an attack. Doing this will immediately blow the opponent back and give you, the defender, the advantage, allowing you to turn things around. You see, Roman cancel is tied to the tension gauge, but burst is tied to its own gauge. So because these two use 2 separate gauges, I recommend using these 2 defensive mechanics interchangeably. I would recommend using burst first, and then while your burst is recovering, you should be gaining meter throughout the match. Then, while you're in the middle of being attacked and blocking, you can use yellow Roman cancel to flip things around. And then, soon after, your burst should be coming back. If you use these interchangeably, you'd be mitigating a lot of the times you might have to take ambiguous mix-ups that you may not have actually had to take. Alright guys, so that's just about gonna wrap it up for my guide on the fighting game fundamentals using Guilty Gear Strive as a reference. I know a lot of you getting into this game are completely brand new players. Just remember that growth is incremental, it's gonna take time, it's not gonna happen overnight. So if you have to watch this video multiple times or any other videos on my channel, let me know. Feel free to join my Discord and follow me on Twitch as well. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.